Some of you are not struggling because you're not healing. You're struggling because of who you're healing around. And I want you to really sit with that, because a lot of people will tell you, just cut people off, just protect your peace, right? Keep your circle small. And yes, boundaries matter. But what I've learned is this: it's not just about having a small circle, it's about having the right people in the right places in your life. Because you can have a small circle and still feel unsupported. You can have a small circle and feel misunderstood, like you're carrying this thing all by yourself. But on the other side of this, you can have just a few people and feel completely covered, completely safe, like you're not doing this all by yourself. So the issue is not really the number of people, it's the type of people that you allow close to you. And if we're going to talk about what that actually looks like who should be in your circle, especially while you're healing from narcissistic abuse, this is not anything we want to guess on, okay? But why not learn from the greatest of all greats, the master of relationships, the one who embodied connection, loyalty, and discernment perfectly? Y'all, we talking about Jesus, because even Jesus had 12 people around him, but he was intentional about who he kept close. And out of those 12, there were three. We know Peter, James, and John. Those are the guys that he trusted with a different level of access. They were with him in moments that everybody else was not invited to. And there is wisdom in that. And just like Jesus was intentional about who had access to him in those most vulnerable moments, you got to be intentional about who has access to you, especially while you're healing, while you're becoming, and while God is doing something new in your life. Listen, everybody can't go into this next season with you, and we have to be clear about that. So let's get into it. Now, let's start with Peter. Peter was real, Peter was raw, and let's be honest, Peter was a little reckless. Like, Peter was the kind of person, he loved hard, he spoke fast, and he didn't always think it through. He had what I like to call a little God-fearing gangster in him. And we all need a little Peter in our lives, right? When you've been in a narcissistic environment for a long time, you get used to being around people who are always putting on a show. They're just robotic. Everything is curated. Everything is calculated. Everything kind of sounds good, right? But it just doesn't feel real. You're dealing with personas, not people. So when you come across somebody like Peter, it actually feels different. It feels authentic. It feels genuine, because Peter didn't know how to fake it. He was going to be exactly who he was, flaws and all. And after you've been through something like narcissistic abuse, you need to be around real people. Realness matters. Now, we know that Peter wasn't perfect, right? He cut off the soldier's ear. He spoke before he thought. He swore he would never deny Jesus and denied him 3 times. But here's what makes Peter powerful. When he got it wrong, he ain't try to clean it up. He didn't try to make it look better or blame other people or gaslight the situation. Peter repented. Peter felt it. He wept. He took responsibility and he came back. And that right there is the kind of person that you need in your life. The trait that we should all be looking for in a Peter is honest, unfiltered truth with real accountability. This is the person who will tell you what you need to hear, even when it's uncomfortable. Not tear you down, but because they love you enough, they're going to be real with you. And when they mess up, because they will, because they're human, they won't twist the story or make you feel crazy. They're going to own it. After what you've been through, you need that type of person in your life. You need somebody who's not performing. You need somebody who's not playing a role. And that's Peter. But hear me. Real is powerful, honesty is necessary, but if all you have is someone who is real with you and not someone who is grounded in truth, you're still going to feel unstable. That's why you also need a James. Now, James was direct. James was decisive, and James was deeply devoted. He wasn't the type to go in circles, okay? He wasn't passive. He wasn't trying to soften the truth to make people feel comfortable. James got straight to it. And you need a James in your life, because when you've come out of narcissistic environments or narcissistic abuse, you've spent a lot of time around confusion. You were around people that talked in circles, right? There was a lot of half-truths. So when you come across a James, okay, somebody who is clear, somebody who is grounded, right? They're not moving all over the place or just acting out emotionally. It feels different. James was that kind of person. He was one of the sons of thunder, which means he had fire in him. He felt things deeply. He stood on what he believed. There's even a moment where somebody disrespects Jesus and James is like, look, Jesus, Hey, do you want me to handle that? And Jesus is like, absolutely not. Okay. Jesus did have to correct him, but do not miss this. James was not indifferent. He didn't sit back and act like everything was okay when it wasn't. You need that kind of person in your circle. And when you've been in a relationship where your pain was constantly dismissed, that matters because you were told that you were too sensitive. You were overreacting. It's not that serious. So now, even when something is wrong, you second guess yourself. Girl, you need a James. Somebody who doesn't dance around the truth. Somebody who doesn't try to make your pain more palatable. You need somebody who can look at the situation and say, no, that was not right. What they did to you was not right. And let me say this. I realized over the years that I'm a lot like James. I am direct. I am to the point. I'm going to give you the truth, and I'm not always going to dress it up. Okay, I've had to grow in that though, because not everybody receives that kind of delivery the same way. But I've also learned to accept it because I believe James was like that. He didn't play with the truth, he didn't water it down, he didn't stretch it out. He said what he needed to say. Okay.
I said what I said. Okay, well,
you need people who are grounded enough to tell you the truth, but steady enough to stand on it. You need a James. But check this out. Healing isn't just about hearing the truth. It's about having somebody who will sit with you while you process it. Because you can have all the clarity in the world and still not feel safe. And that's why you need a John. John was gentle, John was grounded, and John was full of grace. He wasn't the loudest in the room, okay? He wasn't the most intense, but he was the one who stayed. Right? You need a John in your life. John described himself as the disciple who Jesus loved. And I want you to really think about that because he didn't define himself by what he did. He defined himself by how he was loved. That means John was secure. He wasn't striving for attention. He wasn't trying to prove anything. He knew who he was because he knew he was loved. And that security showed up in how he loved other people. John was the one leaning on Jesus at the Last Supper. He was very close to Jesus. He was very comfortable with Jesus, and he wasn't putting on a show. John was the only disciple who stayed at the cross. Everybody else had left Jesus. They abandoned him, right? Peter denied him. Everybody else hid, but John stayed. And I want you to really sit with that because John didn't just stay when it was good. He stayed at the cross, meaning he saw Jesus in a state that most people couldn't handle seeing him. He saw Jesus when he was stripped. He was exposed. He saw Jesus in his pain, not performing, not leading, not put together. Because healing from narcissistic abuse will bring you into seasons where you don't really look like yourself. Maybe you've lost weight, you've gained weight, you're tired, you're grieving, you're not as strong as you used to be. You're trying to rebuild your identity all over again. And a lot of people, they don't know how to sit with that version of you. They know how to celebrate you. They know how to be around you when you're doing well, but they don't know how to stay when you're undone, okay? They don't know how to stay when you're unraveling. So the real question becomes, who can witness you at your lowest season and not disconnect from you? Who can see you when you're not at your best and not make you feel like a burden? Who can sit with you in the middle of your process without rushing you out of it? Because John didn't just stay physically. He stayed emotionally present in the moment where everything looked like loss. He didn't need Jesus to be strong to stay connected to him. And that kind of presence is rare. Everybody can stand with you when you're rising, but not everybody has the capacity to sit with you while you're breaking. And that's a John. Somebody who is consistent, somebody who is safe, somebody who doesn't require you to be better to be loved. And when you find that, you got to hold on to that because that kind of person is not common. And that's something that you can't afford to ignore. So here's what I want you to take with you. Jesus had 12 disciples, but he brought 3 to the garden. And there is wisdom in that. Not everybody in your life needs access to your healing. Not everybody is equipped to walk with you closely. You need a Peter. You need somebody who is real and honest with you. You need a James. You need somebody who takes your pain seriously and stands with you. But you also need a John, someone who simply will not leave you. And sometimes those will be 3 different people. Maybe it'll be one, all in one, right? And that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. The kind of community that helps you heal is the kind that has the capacity to hold you while you're still healing. So start praying over your circle. Ask God to show you who you should be giving access to. And also ask yourself, am I showing up like this for someone else? Because that matters too. And as always, you already know if you need deeper support, y'all, I have one-on-one coaching that is still available. There are also resources down in the description. All the links are there for you. And just remember, I love you guys with the love of Christ, and I will see you in the next video.